NASCAR Coast to Coast, new episode coming at you on this Thursday, October the 16th, and we're starting to wind down the 2025 season. Coming up, our special guest for the week joins us. It is now two-time NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts weekly national champion Jacob Goede stops by to talk about his title run that came down to the very last race of the 2025 season, plus the title chase for both the ZMAX Cars Tour and the Smart Modified Tour roll in for a triple header at North Wilkesboro Speedway. We'll break it all down for you of who's in title contention. And also, we look ahead to the World Series of Asphalt. Yes, that's not till February, but their schedule is out, and there are some changes going into February's event. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, and it all starts right now. Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast on this Thursday, October 16th. Yours truly, Chris Wilner here, MRN Pit Reporter in the MRN studios. And we kick off this week's episode with not one, but now two-time NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series national champion, Jacob Goede. Jacob, congratulations. What have the last few weeks been like since that announcement came out officially from NASCAR? Because as we were following along the last probably handful of weeks, it was nip and tuck when it came down to the national championship. But now that you've secured it, what has life been like here the last few weeks?
It's been the work doesn't stop. The week or 2 weeks after the national championship, we still had my final track points event down in La Crosse, Wisconsin for the Oktoberfest weekend. So honestly, didn't really get to sit back and think and enjoy and kind of relax. I don't know. I'm sure you guys have seen that finish at Elko for the national championship. My car kind of got tore up there, and even with the win, so it was a kind of a busy week getting ready for the final, like I said, final event for my regular season. And anyway, that wrapped up a week ago or so, and now I've been able to kind of sit back and kind of take it all in. It's a huge deal for me. Not many people. There isn't many two-time or multiple-time champions in the history of the weekly racing series, and to put my name on that list is really special, especially coming from the Midwest. Maybe not necessarily the hotbed of NASCAR. Pretty cool deal. I feel like it was a huge testament to the whole Midwest racing community. They've trained me, grew up racing here, and I feel like kind of bringing a championship home to the whole Midwest is pretty cool.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, racing out in the Midwest. Obviously, your three tracks that have been your bread and butter this year, Dells Raceway, Elko, as well as La Crosse Fairgrounds. I'm curious, what is the state of short track racing out in your neck of the woods? Obviously, down here in the Carolinas, we have it all between Hickory, Langley, all the stuff in Virginia. You've got all the Southeast regional races. But what is life like out in the Midwest, and how difficult is it to rack up the races that you need to go for these championships?
Yeah, so the hardest part with those three tracks is they all race on Saturday night, so you can only race one at a time. So I kind of had to commit to, my full-time track was La Crosse, and then I mixed in Dells and Elko, on off nights from La Crosse. But in general, the short track state of racing, I guess, up here is honestly really good, and that's why I decided to kind of put all my effort towards this national championship this year. Is we've had strong car counts, and that's kind of the biggest, one of the biggest factors in this NASCAR points game. And you got to have cars to race against, and then you got to win races on top of it. So that's kind of with Dells. Dells is newly NASCAR sanctioned this year, so that kind of was the deciding factor to really go after it. They opened their season a little bit earlier than La Crosse, and Elko for that matter, and their car counts has been strong the last few years. So I thought this was a good opportunity, and we were able to make it happen. And it isn't easy though. We generally have large inverts based off qualifying. And then like lacrosse, for example, they every time you win a race, you gotta add 20 pounds. And after your third win, you start taking left side percentage away. So they really try and
Oh, wow.
equal it out or make it fair for everybody, or I don't know what the right terminology is there. I mean, as a competitor, it can be really tough. If you're one of the guys winning races, it makes it tough to keep doing that. But it puts on a good show for the fans, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We need fans in the stands and have a competitive product on the track that people want to see.
Yeah, that's crazy. Coming from also, I do some sports car stuff with IMSA. It's like BOP, balance of performance. It changes every week, just trying to help get the parity of the classes together. So that's interesting that that's kind of a part of the short track racing scene out there. Now, your first title, Jacob, was 2019. A lot has changed since then. I know your family's been growing bigger. Obviously, the state just of the weekly series now with NASCAR putting in so much on the regional side to kind of beef up that schedule. What have been the differences between that title in 2019 and this one here in 2025?
Yeah, differences. I only had Saturday nights to work with. 2019, Madison was a NASCAR sanctioned track, so I was able to go Friday nights on occasion. But this year it was limited to one night a week, which was good, good and bad. It it's good for the family life and just being able to only race Saturday nights, but it made it difficult. You'd like to always get more starts for this NASCAR game, and I didn't necessarily have that option. I mean, we got plenty of starts this year, or I did, with a lot of my tracks running double features quite often. So I got plenty of starts, so that what really wasn't the issue, but still, I mean, that's kind of the name of the game. The more you race, the better your odds are to have good finishes. So, but the biggest thing is my family is getting busier. My three girls are doing the softball,
Oh,
summer
yeah.
softball travel deal, and so that gets tough to fit it all in. But that's where a lot of their games are on weeknights. I was able to go to those, and I did miss quite a few tournaments on weekends, and that gets tough. The older they get, the more competitive they are, and the more things they're doing. You want to be there for that stuff. They're only young for so long, and yeah. So anyway, that got tough, but then we also run quarter midgets. So I'm trying to raise the next generation of potential racers, and they're doing that on Sundays. So I don't think we were doing that in 2019. So anyway, that just added that on top of that. So I was running my car weekly, and they run six cars on a weekly basis between my three girls, and so there's a lot more going on than 2019. But Saturdays was race day for myself, and I put in 100% effort into that, and luckily it paid off.
Absolutely. And I know this championship has vaulted the careers of many that have won it. Obviously, I think most recently we can pinpoint Lane Riggs and now what he's doing, challenging for a Truck Series championship just a couple of years removed from his. Now that you're a two-time champion, I guess, first off, what does a title like this do for your career? And two, is there aspirations now to kind of maybe see what doors could possibly open at the next level, or where do you feel like your career's at here in 2025?
That's tough. Being from the Midwest, you're not in the heart of NASCAR country, so it's really tough to break open those doors. And I'm 40 years old, and maybe kind of past the moving on to the upper levels of NASCAR. I mean, that was always the dream. But I've also came to the realization that the short track level needs guys like me, or the Bubba Pollards or Ty Majeski's. You know, we need to build that fan base at the grassroots level, and I've kind of came to the realization that this is probably as far as I'm going to go, and I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine racing short tracks on Saturday nights, and it's probably never going to be my career. I got a full-time day job that is my career, that provides for my family. And, you know, I wouldn't turn down the opportunity to race
Sure, yeah.
at a higher level, but, you know, it's probably not necessarily top priority or goal at this point in my career.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand that. I think it'd be interesting too if you just look at those that compete for this national championship on the weekly series level. It almost should open the door because it is a NASCAR deal to maybe offer, hey, okay, the national champion gets one start in a truck race just to kind of have that reward, right? Would that be something maybe you could see being a part of this championship?
That would be awesome. Yeah, that would be really cool. And you know, like a lot of these guys that have won it, you know, Connor Hall, Lane
Yeah.
Riggs, you mentioned, you know, they're in their earlier stages of their career to where they got the big aspirations for that. And but no, that would be, I mean, I came close to having those opportunities when I was their age.
Yeah.
We just couldn't ever put the financing together to make it work. But I think that would be really cool for NASCAR. I mean, NASCAR is trying hard for this regional and uh, weekly series to grow it and bring more attention to it. They're working hard at it, and I mean, if they could put something like that together, that'd be really cool. I mean, I did get the opportunity to test an ARCA car at Daytona. I mean, that was wild in itself
I bet.
for a guy like me, being at Daytona. I've never seen the place, and then to actually, you know, test an ARCA car there was pretty special. And that was all put on just for this NASCAR regional and weekly series performance that I've had over the last few years. So, got to thank NASCAR for what they're trying to do and putting the effort towards this grassroots of motorsports. And hopefully, people will continue to support it and keep working hard to try and be the next champion. And we need cars at the racetracks, and we need fans in the stands.
Absolutely. That's the two magical ingredients. And for sure, I agree with your point about NASCAR investing so much in this because we're trying to get that ladder a little bit stronger between the weekly series and getting into NASCAR's top three series. So really good stuff. You mentioned not maybe having the aspiration anymore to go full time at the next level, but you do have a ton of accomplishments in your racing career. I mean, just looking at a handful, you're a 5-time Midwest regional champion, 10-time Minnesota state champion. You've got the Wisconsin state championship a couple of times and a track championship, I think, 10 at Elko. So
Yep.
what are you most proud of when you look at all those accomplishments and then adding on now a second national championship?
I mean, hey, it's got to be the national championships. I mean, I think that's the biggest deal. I think it was pretty impressive to do 10 in a row, 10 late model championships at Elko. I mean, that was a pretty big deal. I felt, I mean, championships aren't easy to win, right? And
Yeah.
to be able to do it 10 years in a row, I mean, that just means you didn't have very many mechanical failures, no huge crashes, you know, and to do that 10 times in a row, like after you've done it and take a step back, it's like, man, that's pretty wild to have a full decade of strong performance. And it's just crazy to think about, honestly. But these the national championships definitely take the cake. You know, like looking at some of the greats, the Midwest greats. You know, Steve Carlson's won it from up here in Wisconsin, but nobody else in Minnesota or Wisconsin has ever won it. And there's been a lot of great racers to come through these states, and to be the only, or you know, the only two-time champion, and one of, you know, two of us have done it
Yeah.
from Minnesota or Wisconsin is crazy, and I'm very proud of that.
Point of pride for sure. Absolutely. Any interest in with all the success you've had in the Midwest to dabble a little bit in the Southeast, maybe go try to run like a Hampton Heat or something like that just to see kind of this side of the world in the terms of late model racing?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just tough logistically. The rules are, you know, way different.
Yeah.
Obviously, be a different car, and at that point, you'd be looking at maybe, you know, trying to put together a rental deal or whatnot. I mean, it'd be awesome to be able to do that. It's just, you know, our season's long up here, and you kind of gotta pick your battles. And you know, it'd be fun to do. Don't get me wrong. It's just hard to make all that line up
Sure,
and have the connections to do something like that. I
sure.
mean, if the opportunity came, I'd be willing to do it. But we're a busy racing family. I race all summer. My brother Matt, he races ice oval snowmobiles.
Wow.
I used to as well, but anyway, he's still doing that. So it's kind of like we help each other throughout each of our seasons. He helps me all summer. I help him during the winter, and um, anyway, time gets tough to find sometimes.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? That's for sure. Do you pay attention to what's kind of going on down here? Obviously, we have so many marquee races between, Martinsville, like we had a couple of weeks ago, where basically everyone in the Southeast who ever drives has ever driven a late model seems to show up for that one.
Yeah.
Obviously the Triple Crown in Virginia. Do you kind of pay attention? And if so, who's caught your eye as far as a short track racer in this neck of the woods?
Yeah, absolutely. I watched Martinsville, that whole deal. That looks like pretty cool event to just be a part of. I mean, the Peyton Sellers. I mean, he's one that I've definitely paid attention to for a long time. Met him a couple times through this NASCAR events and
Yeah.
whatnot. So definitely, you know, I always keep an eye on him. But then, like, Ty Majeski went down and ran the race, and he's someone I'm very familiar with, and so it's kind of fun to keep tabs on a guy know pretty well and race against a bunch, and to see how he performs down there against those guys. But just recently, obviously, I was paying quite attention to Chase.
Yeah.
And what he had going on this year, and so it's kind of neat to see him maybe step out of his comfort zone and see how that went. And but yeah, no, I try and keep tabs on the big events. I mean, I'm a racer. I'm a race fan on top of it, and so I definitely watch those big events whenever I can.
And speaking of watching, you mentioned Chase, the fact that this title went down to the last weekend. How was it being so far away from where Chase has been racing and trying to keep tabs on, okay, this is what I need to do, or here's the point scenario? How much, were you immersed in that, or were you not really wanting to know and more just say, hey, our results on the weekend will take care of itself?
Um, you know, we definitely, in the last month, we were going to the racetrack pretty much knowing we had to win every
Yeah.
night. And, didn't really necessarily care what Chase was doing. I mean, if we figured if we could get a win, that's as good as we can do, and that's all we can control. But going into that last night, I was, what was I, 2 points up,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's all kinds of scenarios going through your head, and trying to determine, well, if he qualifies here, he might start there. That kind of determines what we need to do. We still figured we needed to win a race. It's just a matter of, how many bonus points do we need to get?
Yeah.
So trying to figure that out ahead of time was stressful, and not something that you necessarily want to be doing when you should be just focusing on what you can control. But that's all part of this game. Is the bonus point situation, and but it all comes down to winning races, and luckily we were able to do that last night, and the way it turned out, we didn't actually need to win, but anyway, it felt good to win on that last night and put kind of the final exclamation point on a great season.
Absolutely. 10 wins, 25 top 10 finishes. Jacob, congratulations on your second title. Enjoy it now a little bit. Hopefully, you have a little bit of a break. Is there any more races on your schedule this year?
For myself, that was it.
Okay.
A couple or a week ago down in La Crosse for Oktoberfest. We are actually leaving tomorrow morning to go down to Kansas with the girls for a NASCAR Youth Series national event.
Awesome.
Going to try one of those out. So once we get through that this weekend, then that'll be it for us as a family as far as racing goes. And then we get into banquet season. So looking
Yeah.
forward to going down to Charlotte, and celebrating the season with my crew and family, and trying to reward them and celebrate with them for, helping me all season. And yeah, so that's about it for us in the Midwest.
Awesome. Yeah, banquet is a great time of year. And as a former quarter midget kid myself, I did it for about 7 years. That is some of my favorite memories of all time have been in quarter midget. So go and soak those in, those moments with your girls, because they don't last long, but the power of that series just being so family oriented is it's really something incredible.
I hear you. I mean, that's where I grew up too, racing quarter midgets,
Yeah.
and I agree 100%. Those are some of my best memories as a kid. Going to these national events, hanging out with your friends, having pool parties, like that is the best about
Yes.
the NASCAR Youth Series quarter midget racing, and hopefully trying to make those same memories with my kids that I did with my parents.
Good deal. Well, best of luck with that, and best of luck with the rest of the season. Congratulations, Jacob, on a job well done in 2025.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me, and yeah, we're gonna enjoy it while we can.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan. Jacob Goede, now two-time NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series national champion, joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Still plenty to come, including, of course, the calendar as we wind down some championships. We'll break down North Wilkesboro and a lot more coming up next here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
3, 2, 1, start your engine!
The NASCAR channel is streaming now, exclusively on Tubi.
Tell them we got it!
Go deeper into NASCAR with 24/7 news, documentaries, and explore the vault of timeless NASCAR stories and unforgettable races. From crushing defeats to the thrill of victory.
Go, baby!
The NASCAR channel, always on, always free. Only on Tubi.
Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on MRN. Appreciate Jacob for stopping by. What a great conversation, too. And I kind of think we're going to get some traction, I think, with my idea about getting the NASCAR Weekly Series national champion a possible shot at the next level. I don't know. NASCAR, let's make something happen, maybe a partnership or some sort of deal. But I think that'd be pretty cool. But nonetheless, congratulations to Jacob. Hopefully he gets some time to celebrate, and best of luck to his girls, by the way, down there at Kansas at the NASCAR Youth Series event. Speaking of stuff over the weekend, we had the ARCA West Series, the Star Nursery 150 over the weekend out at the Las Vegas Bull Ring, and it was a fantastic race. Trevor Huddleston, though, is starting to pronounce himself as the championship favorite in 2025 with just the one more race to go at Phoenix coming up in a few weeks as he picked up his fourth series victory of the season. Connor Hall got his first ever ARCA West Series start this weekend, traveled out there to the West Coast and battled Trevor for much of the race. It was actually really entertaining to see somebody from the Southeast come over the ARCA West platform and do really well on debut. Late cautions, though, kind of cost Connor Hall his shot at victory as Kyle Keller, the other championship combatant going into this weekend, had some struggles and is basically now virtually out of title contention. He's 34 points back after a struggle of an evening on Saturday night in Vegas. So Trevor Huddleston will most likely be your champion, although anything can happen when we get to Phoenix Raceway because that's going to be a big car count as the ARCA West Championship finale will kick off NASCAR Championship weekend out in the desert on November 1st. The NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour also in action this weekend as they count down their championship races, just two more to go. Ron Silk, though, crashed the party once again. Mr. Part-Time this year and former champ claimed his fourth win of the season out there at Thompson Motor Speedway at Super T, at the Big T, I should say, his 30th career win and 8th all-time at Thompson. So it was a really great race for Ronnie. For Matt Swanson, he took home second in a solid effort for a driver not many had talked about this season. So good congratulations to Matt. And when you look at the championship, Austin Beers finished third, so doing what he needs to do to pad his championship point lead. And by doing so, he beat Justin Bonsignor another week again. So now that ballooned to 14 points, Austin Beers over Justin Bonsignor, before we go to Martinsville Speedway and cap off the 2025 championship at the Virginia's for Racing Lovers 200 on October 23rd. By the way, you can hear that race right here on the Motor Racing Network. So Beers versus Bonsignor, 14 points. That's going to be the big storyline going into a couple of weeks from now. Other winners over the weekend, Ty Majeski. We actually heard it from Jacob Goede, knows him really well up from the Wisconsin and Minnesota area. Well, Ty, believe it or not, added another check in the box on his list of crown jewel late model wins to his career. Believe it or not, he's never won the Winchester 400, and he was able to do that over the weekend on Sunday for his first career win with the super late model at the ASA Stars National Tour race there with the Winchester 400, led 350 of 400 laps. So a all-out dominant effort for Ty. Second, last year he finished to Cole Butcher. Cole Butcher this year came home in the third spot. How about Dawson Sutton? The youngster out of Tennessee, who's a Rackley Wharf Truck Series regular, but also runs in their super late and late model program, finished runner-up to Ty Majeski. So 2 Truck Series regulars, 1-2 at Winchester. And Dawson's breaking through here this year on the late model side of things. We'll have to see if that starts to translate over to the Truck Series campaign here at the end of the season. Some other winners this weekend: Carson Lofton in a dramatic ending at the Smart Modified Tour Smart Playoff race at Tri-County Speedway. Lots of drama both on and off the racetrack, of course, for the win. Burt Myers on fresher tires ran down Carson Lofton, the youngster, and tried to get around him on the outside, was there, and then Lofton kind of moved his lane up and basically just elbowed Burt Myers out of the way, and Burt did not take too kindly to that. If you were on social media, you can go back and look at it on Flow Racing. Burt went over to victory lane to have some words with Carson, who stayed buckled in behind the wheel, and it ended up being really strong words with his crew members. There was some pushing, a lot of drama there at the end of that one, as Burt Myers wasn't happy with the move that Carson Lofton pulled on. But it was Carson Lofton getting a victory. And then there was post-race tech. There was finger pointing. There were 2 protests between Lofton protesting Burt Myers' car, Burt Myers protesting Carson Lofton's engine. The Lofton team ended up withdrawing their protest, had to pay Burt's team $500 for the protest fee. But then Burt Myers said, no, we want to tear that engine down. So Smart Tour officials took Lofton's engine, deemed it legal after several hours. But there was a lot of tension down there in the tech shed after that Tri-County Series race. But when it was all said and done, we've got our Smart 3 officially going for the championship at North Wilkesboro Speedway this weekend. Paulie Hartwig III, Ryan Newman, and defending champ Luke Baldwin. So that's going to be fun to watch coming up this weekend. Matt Hirschman, speaking of modifieds, picked up his one for the thumb, not 5, 10 Race of Champions victories. He got it done at Thompson Speedway over the weekend. A part of the big World Series weekend, and the Al Gerber Trophy was once again going to Big Money Matt Hirschman at the Big T. His first win, by the way, there at the Speedway since 2008. And then Kevin Harvick finally gets that elusive Harvick Cup victory over his son Keelan in the Cars Tour West race out at the Las Vegas Bull Ring over the weekend. It has been all Keelan this year, beating Dad by a good healthy margin a couple of races. Dad's been swept up in accidents, but finally Kevin gets one over his son, and they'll be back in action, of course, coming up this weekend as well, I believe, down at North Wilkesboro. So we're going to have a Harvick versus Harvick Cup continuing down at North Wilkesboro this weekend. Some news and notes over the week before we get to the kind of the schedule, and I mentioned some of the races coming up this weekend. We talked about Brendan Butterbean Queen, of course, one of our regional racers going up to the next level, and now our ARCA champion for 2025. He has been signed to complete the final 3 races with Colleague Racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. So Brendan, who comes off that lone top 10 at Kansas, a very surprising and impressive top 10 at Kansas for Colleague, will get that seat for the rest of the year as he continues to learn in the NASCAR National Series for the final 3 races. ARCA in NASCAR 2025. If you have not gotten your NASCAR 2025 game yet, do so, because you can drive as some of your favorite ARCA Menard Series competitors. That is being featured as part of the Road to the Cup Series career mode in the game. So Lawless Allen, Isabella Robusto, Brendan Butterbean Queen, even Brayton Laster, the Pizza Man is in it. There's several others as well. Andy J is a part of that program. So you can race as some of your favorite ARCA Menard Series drivers this year in the game. I've got my download copy. Thank you, Pat. And I'm going to go download that and play that as well. So really cool for ARCA to be featured in NASCAR 25 after its official release earlier this week. Billy Van Meter was crowned the 2025 JEGS CRA All-Star Tour champion out at Winchester over the weekend. Congratulations to him. And then some big news as we look way down in the horizon, already to 2026. The World Series of Asphalt is back once again for its, I believe it's 50th anniversary, if not mistaken. There may be a few more years in that. February 14th or 6th through the 14th next year. The schedule just came out over the weekend. You can check it out on social media as well as on New Smyrna Speedway's website. But the biggest change, only 4 nights of racing for the late models. So each of our late model series that compete, part of the 15 classes that'll run over the course of those 9 nights of racing, just 4 nights each. Now, we are bringing the modifieds back. The NASCAR World Modified Tour will be back to open its season for its 5th straight year on February 7th. Also, all those special races are back. The John Blewett 76, Clyde Hart Memorial for the ASA Stars National Tour, the Heart to Heart 100 for the Pro Late models, all back, as is the Richie Evans 100 for the Tour Type mods. So all your favorite races are back, but a little shakeup as far as how many late model races on the weekly schedule we will get. 9 nights of racing beginning February 6th. 2026 at New Smyrna. All right, let's get to the weekend calendar. We mentioned the championship battles for the ZMAX Cars Tour at the top of the show. It is down to the wire as they get their season finale and championship night underway with a triple header featuring also the Smart Tour Modifieds coming up this week at North Wilkesboro Speedway. First up on Saturday will be the Cars Tour Pro Late Model finale at 1:30 in the afternoon. Ben Mayer has the championship point lead, pretty much sewed up, 45 points over Brandon Lopez, but they're going to contend with Kevin and Keelan Harvick, who have made their entry into the Pro Late Model Series finale as well. I believe about 15 cars entered for that one. There may be a few more that sprinkle in before the weekend commences, but nonetheless, all eyes will be on the championship, but also on the Harvick Cup for, I believe, its final time in 2025. Not sure if they announced any more races this year. And the Cars Tour Late Model Stock Championship goes down between 2 drivers. Landon Lewis, 12 points over Connor Hall, although technically Cade Brown is mathematically still eligible, 34 points back, but it's going to take a miracle. So I think all eyes are going to be on Landon Lewis, who of course won here back in May and got to take the elevator ride up to North Wilkesboro Speedway Victory Lane. But Connor Hall is going to want to change that and go for his Cars Tour Championship. So a lot going on there. As the 5 o'clock finale for the ZMAX Cars Tour Late Model Stocks is what's scheduled. And then kind of sandwiched in the middle at 3:15, we will have our Smart 3 Championship for the Smart Modified Tour at North Wilkesboro. Paulie Hartwig III, Luke Baldwin going for his 2nd straight title, and Ryan Newman, who came close last year looking for his first Smart Modified Tour Championship. All are your top 3 that'll go for the title. Of course, for Paulie, what a story it's been. 14 years of age, rookie in the series who's just taken it by storm, been very consistent this year. He's also a former winner at North Wilkesboro in the Crate Modifieds back when we had the racetrack revival back in 2022. So Paulie knows how to win. Luke obviously knows how to win with his Smart Tour Championship last year, and Ryan Newman with a couple of wins on the season is in contention as well. So those 3 going to duke it out 3:15 on Saturday, right in between the 2 Cars Tour Championship finales. So if you're in the area down in the Southeast, North Wilkesboro Speedway is the place to be for championship night here in 2025. Some other races over the weekend: Pro All-Star Series Pass 400 at Oxford. That's a good one for the Pro All-Star Series as they cap their 2025 season, and a lot of other dirt track races as well, kind of commencing this weekend as a lot of racetracks are starting to button things up for 2025. The Motor Racing Network, after 2-week hiatus, is back to complete the NASCAR National Series with the next 3 races to cap 2025, beginning this weekend at Talladega Super Speedway. We kick things off with a triple header weekend on Friday with the Love's RV Stop 225 for the Craftsman Truck Series at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, round of 8 for the NASCAR Xfinity and Cup Series as well, with Saturday being pro qualifying for the Cup Series first up at 1:30 Eastern, followed by the United Rentals 250 for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And then, of course, NASCAR Live Race Day gets you set for the Yellowwood 500 from Talladega at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Again, all on the Motor Racing Network. A lot of storylines, a lot of drama to get to when we get to Talladega this weekend. Looking forward to being a part of the cast and crew of MRN this weekend, as we now have 3 fingers in the air, 3 weeks to go until we crown our NASCAR champion. So thank you for tuning in to NASCAR Coast to Coast this week. Of course, thanks to our guest, Jacob Goede, and our producer, Pat Jaggers. My name is Chris Wilner. We appreciate it as always. Looking forward to breaking down all things short track racing next week. Until then, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.